Hi everyone, welcome to Nearpod and the Social Studies classroom session. We're super excited that you're joining us today, and we want to make sure that you walk away with a great understanding of how to actually use Nearpod with your social studies students. My name is Becky Ramirez, and I'm your K-12 Social Studies Coordinator for the district. You can always find me at becky.ramirez@ectorcountyisd.org. Okay, let's go ahead and let's jump into this. So for this session, you need to have attended a Nearpod 101 basics. And if you have not already checked out one of those recorded videos, please make sure that you go back and look at any of the intro videos that Techie Tribe has provided for Nearpod. We are here to answer any of your questions. We're just going to dive a little bit deeper into what this looks like for social studies. So I'm actually going to go ahead and go right into the site. There's a lot of great information at nearpod.com, and then we will talk about how to sign up. Of course, it's free as teachers, but I actually want to go ahead and scroll down a little bit, and you can watch a video here on how Nearpod works if you would like to remind yourself from that basic session about Nearpod. Please remember, though, that you don't have to start from scratch, and I'm actually going to walk you through a couple of lessons that I picked up from the Nearpod library, how to actually go through that and what that looks like for social studies. We want to remind you that Nearpod also will help you deliver your lesson to students, no matter if they are with you live or asynchronous. We saw a lot of that in the district this year with remote learning, and so we want to continue that if next year you're actually looking at maybe flipping your classroom and delivering a lesson ahead of time to students, or having small group settings as we look at groupings. Then Nearpod can really meet your needs. Okay, you also, the most important piece is that you know where your students are in their learning. So many times I might know where one or two of my kids are, but not everybody. So this gives you an opportunity to get real-time feedback. Okay, once you're here at the Nearpod site, I'm going to go ahead and log in. And I always log in with Google so that then it can directly connect it to my Google account with a very secure password site. So those passwords get auto-generated for you. Let's talk a little bit about social studies. So this is my Nearpod dashboard. The dashboard is just what you're going to see when you first log into Nearpod, and I have all of my lessons. We know that social studies really has a focus on critical thinking. If you have any understanding about ELAR, then I often refer to our critical understanding process TEKS as our old figure 19. But Nearpod does a really amazing job of being able to expose your students to actual primary sources that we use, that sort of thing. So I actually want to jump right into one of my sessions and kind of let you look at each of these pieces. So I'm going to go to Create, and I'm going to create a lesson. And you can create it right here in your dashboard. And there are a ton of different things, and I am going to add content and activities. So when I click on this, if there is an engage piece that I want my students to look at for social studies, looking at or thinking about that ECISD lesson plan framework, I can absolutely lock it in here. If I want a slide, I can go ahead and add it in or create a slide. If I want to direct them right to a web content for social studies, I can do that. We know that academic vocab is a huge obstacle in our classroom, so we can go ahead and incorporate some vocabulary or BBC. So any of these are super amazing. If you want to, let's say, include something from Discovery Ed, then you could go ahead and just hit the web content, and then it's going to ask you to input your URL. So you would just take your link from Discovery Ed, and boom, your Nearpod piece is already in there for that particular type. Let's say, though, that I want an activity for my social studies students. So I can ask an open-ended question. I want them to match a people and or a person and a place, a person and, let's say, their invention, okay, or a person and their era. I can also go ahead and incorporate a collaboration board, a poll. These are really amazing for social studies as well. Fill in the blank as we start looking at the new STAR-tested type of questions. Or if I want to check in, I can go ahead and use that with Flipgrid. So just want to remind you of any of those. Okay, so I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to exit this because I don't want to, got it. I actually don't want to create anything new. So I'm going to hit the back button so that we can go back into my library, and I want to show you a couple that I pulled from iCivics. So when you're in your dashboard, this shows you all of your lessons. Okay, if you want to go ahead and pull something, then I would go here to Nearpod Library. I'm over here. You can see my cursors on the left-hand side. And once I click the Nearpod Library, then I can go ahead and I can search by topic. So you have all of these topics. Many of you have been asking me about current events, so those are there. Racial injustice, but I can go in and then refine by social studies and even refine by my grade level. Okay. So all of that is available on your Nearpod library. We're going to actually go back to my dashboard, and I want to show you a couple that I pulled from iCivics. Okay, so when you're doing this, you can, if you have all of your students together and you want to do this in real time, you can roll this out live participation. But if you have small groups, then you can hit student paste. So if I go into live participation, I'll let you look at a couple of these. I can just share this code with my students. I can do it by actually broadcasting this or projecting. I can project this so that my students can go ahead and type in the code on their end. I can drop it in a link. I can email them, or I can shoot it out via Microsoft Teams. Okay. This was a really great Nearpod that got put together that I really did love about Brown versus the Board of Education. Each of these all start with an essential question if you're pulling these from iCivics, which I love that because for social studies, we really want to go ahead and anchor our lesson with an EQ or an essential question. So this is really what my students are going to answer as we go through. Okay. You can also roll this out a couple of ways. So I have a mini lesson. They'll be reading about Brown versus the Board of Education and then complete different activities. Now, as I go through, I want to make sure that I'm hitting the right rigor for each of these. So you can go ahead and click the PDF viewer. This is going to make this bigger for the students so that then they can go ahead and make this as big as they want to. Remember that it's going to, you can open it with Cami. So if you guys want them to actually go through, implore, annotate any of these pieces, you can have them do that. You can also have them answer questions as we go through. So this is the reading on Brown versus the Board of Education. I actually, when I ran this lesson, put a timer on it and told my students, which were actually student teachers, that I was going to give them about 2 minutes to start reading. And it didn't matter how far they were able to make it. If they didn't make it all the way through, I just wanted them to read for intention, thinking about that EQ. Okay, so thinking about that anchor essential question. How did this case impact society? Well, first I need to know what was going on. So that's where we have that reading. Okay. Again, you can do this on your own pace. You can absolutely do it together live. So when I push the students to this one, this is the question that they're going to see. And they actually have an opportunity to answer this. So this is really fantastic because remember we were talking about real-time feedback. Okay, so they're participating. It'll show you of the number of students that you have logged in, how many have actually completed the answer. And then they don't see this side, only you as a teacher see this. Okay. Then it's time for a think, pair, share. So again, whether they're with me in class or in this case, we saw that they were remote, I can think, pair, share them by having them go ahead and group up together. And then here's a class discussion question. So these are really great because, like I said, there are going to be times where on your TEK, your student is asked to explain something or discuss something. So that's going to be a class discussion. Or if you don't want them to actually answer all together in class, then we can go ahead and we can complete the think, pair, share. There's a great place then. Immediately, we're going to go ahead and collaborate on what we've learned. So I have paired this with the quiz. Again, the students, because they're in real time, would complete the quiz, and I'm immediately getting to see what those scores look like and where I need to go back in and remediate on any particular question. I love this because this is a real time. So let's go ahead and let's make that connection to current day situation. So do you think segregation in schools still exists today? Why or why not? This is a great time for them to answer. It's an open-ended question and they can go ahead and answer those together. And then we can reflect. Okay. So on this one, I actually went ahead and gave them a ranking of I understand, I'm ready to go forward. The A would be I'm completely confused. The B is I'm slightly confused. And then if they don't have an answer, then it'll hit us with a D. So on this side, I can see how many students have answered this as we go through and reflect on Brown versus the Board of Education, and then any questions that they still have. You could easily also run this through a Post-it note on their way out. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to end that particular lesson. Yes, I want to leave it. And I want to show you that that was really easy. Like I said, I didn't put that together. iCivics put it together, and you can actually go through and edit any of those as you want to. So once I have gone into, and I'll show you that, the Nearpod library, and let's see if I could just search by iCivics. Awesome. So here are a ton of lessons on iCivics. Okay. You can hit any of these pieces here. So what I'm going to have you do at this time is I'm going to actually have you stop or pause this video and take a moment to go ahead and pull one of these. You can preview the lesson, and I'll give you about a minute or two to preview any of these lessons. Okay, so now that you've had a minute to go ahead and investigate, I'm going to actually click on one. I'm just going to choose impeachment and convictions. And then what you see is a pop-up window just like this. Okay, I want to preview it before I add it to any of my lessons. So I'm going to preview. I'm going to read through. These slides are for you as a teacher. Okay, it gives you an introduction about iCivics, what you would need. Then here's your EQ. So what is impeachment and how does it differ from a conviction? Again, it gives you your in-learning goals for your students, which is really great. And then it lets you get started. So let's say that, yeah, I absolutely love this. I want to add it to my lessons. You'll notice up here that it's been successfully added. So when I click the Nearpod icon, now it's right here at the top of my dashboard. So I want to go ahead and I want to edit this. Okay. To keep a copy of the original, you can duplicate it. I don't want a copy of the original. So I'm going to edit that one. But you can make a copy if you want to. Okay. Oftentimes I will make a copy so that, oh, I didn't mean to delete that slide. I can go back to my original. So I don't necessarily want my students to read these intro slides, they don't need this piece. So I'm going to click on it and then delete slide. Yes. Click on it and delete the slide. Yes. So you can go through and actually delete any of these slides that you want to. I'm going to keep the EQ. I'm ready to get started. So let's go ahead and save and exit. And now I'm going to go ahead and you can hit preview if you want to. So now I have my EQ, what my students will be able to do at the end of today's lesson, or the lesson, maybe it's going to take a couple of days. So right off the bat, my kids know what they're going to do. Okay. I love this one because it's an infographic. Kids really need time to work with graphs, maps, and charts. And so this is an amazing infographic as we look at each of these pieces and kind of talk about what is the difference between impeachment and conviction, because you guys know we have adults that don't even know the difference on that one. Okay. And then look at this collaboration board. So each of my kids then would go ahead and type in, what did you see in the infographic that you'd like to learn more about? You can go back in, and if you want to edit this slide, you can, to change the question even. But everybody adds the collaboration piece here, and then once they post, it goes on the collaboration board. So it's a lot like Padlet. We have each of these incorporated into this one piece. Then it gives you some vocab. So this is a really great lesson. Really what we want you to notice as you're going through these is the opportunity to give your students voice and choice. So this Nearpod, as we go through these Nearpod lessons, especially from iCivics, really hit all of the high points. They hit our essential questions. They hit how we're making connections to current events. We're anchoring them with learning objectives. We're giving every student an opportunity to give us an answer instead of, so many times if I call on a kid in class, I get one or two, but here we have everybody being able to collaborate. So it gives us an opportunity to hear from everyone at one particular level. And again, as I'm creating these Nearpod lessons, I definitely want to anchor it then in each of the TEKs. What are my TEKs asking me, and how deep do I need to go with those? Thanks so much for attending today's or listening to today's session. If you have any questions, remember, don't hesitate to contact me. I'll put my contact info up one more time. It's Becky Ramirez at ectorcountyisd.org. Thank you so much for attending this session. And if you need to know or want to know anything else about Nearpod in the Social Studies classroom, don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks for